Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, and today we're here with Bill Ottman for the third time on my channel. We're going to be talking about mines and the new tokenomics and just everything that they've been up to for the last little while and more so recently. But before we get into that, thank you so much for coming on again.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. For people who didn't see the first couple of interviews, do you want to just give a quick rundown about yourself and just what you've been up to for the last little bit?
Yeah, my name is Bill. I'm the co-founder, CEO of Minds. We're an open source crypto social network. And, for the last 6 months, we have been completely revamping the tokenomics and the Web3 infrastructure and the whole reward system for creators and participants in the token. So I think it's been a beast of an effort, but I think everyone's going to be really happy with what we came out with.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So just before we start to really dive into all the meat of everything, for people who might be just joining us for the first time learning about mines, do you just want to give a little bit of a rundown about mines as well?
Yeah, sure. So, like I mentioned, we're a social networking app, but we pretty much do everything the inverse of mainstream social networks. So, we're fully transparent. 100% of our code is free and open source software. Anyone can inspect it, take it, make their own app even with it, which few companies have done. Very privacy focused. Don't require any personal information to use the app. Certainly not using surveillance to target anyone. And we're also really big on rewards and monetization for creators. So you can earn both cash and crypto for a number of different activities on the site. And, additionally, yeah, we're trying to decentralize as much as possible. Like this year, we launched integration with Arweave so that you can optionally post to a decentralized content storage system. We also launched a multi-cloud infrastructure with Kubernetes so that basically we're not reliant on any one singular cloud provider, so that if something happened at AWS, then it wouldn't even matter, because we are sort of have this Hydra multi-headed beast model, which is very difficult to achieve. That was a huge development effort, and most apps that you'll use do not have multi-cloud setup. So, and then we have the whole token, which is on Ethereum. Check out the Minds token. And yeah, we recently just launched a major integration with Uniswap, which is an incredible project, and we're stoked.
Yeah, you guys are definitely, you've got a lot going on. In terms of what you just mentioned, how you guys are doing the multi-cloud thing, I think that's really important, especially with what we've seen in the last little while with like Parler and Gab. And yeah, I think that's, you guys are definitely future-proofing Minds by doing stuff like that. So what are Minds' plans around KYC and like how easy is it for people to qualify to actually get these rewards that you guys are talking about now with the new tokenomics and all this stuff?
Right now, you just need to put in a phone number so that we can check that it's not an OFAC sanctioned country. But we aren't even actually storing that number. We just take a hash of it, and there's a check that's done in the back. So we don't have the number, and like we don't correlate the number to your like account in our database. And that's really it. I mean, the only other thing that we've rolled out is that you do have to be plus in order to withdraw the tokens. And we're working on like novel ways to potentially do the withdrawals like in batches so that everybody doesn't have to pay so much gas to withdraw from off chain to on chain. But for like, we definitely over the last couple of years have experienced some sort of token spammer farmers who like come in and try to abuse the system. And So adding plus as a requirement to withdraw it's mostly like a Sybil resistance measure, but you can pay for plus in tokens and you don't, so in terms of KYC, like our philosophy has always been like, we don't want to be handling people's personal information.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it's really just the phone number, and then, you have to, agree to the terms that you're not in one of those countries. But the OFAC thing is the only hard requirement for US based companies.
True. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good to hear. Just because, with platforms, well, I won't name any specific platforms, but people get concerned when there's talks of
Boy.
KYC, and there's a lot of yeah, and there's a lot of like regulatory concerns coming our way. So everyone's always concerned about that. So it's good to hear from the horse's mouth that that is not really something that you guys are planning on increasing for now. So for the new tokenomics. First off, how are the new tokens being distributed? Let's kind of just like flesh all this out and dive into it.
Sure. Yeah. And just, so for anyone else who doesn't know, like, on Minds, you can post a variety of content. You can, videos, blogs, status posts, share links, photos, and standard stuff. It's interesting how I feel like every app is almost becoming like the same thing at this point. Like if you compare Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, even Facebook, it's like the apps aren't that Twitter. I mean, the apps aren't that different. Now they all have stories.
Yeah.
They all have video. You have feed. You have private messages. It's almost like society is like coalescing. It's like this unspoken consensus on like what we expect from social media apps.
Hmm.
And I think that's actually a good thing. That's sort of like this very natural process of the planet sort of coalescing on what we like to be able to communicate and post our content. So, but anyway, yeah. So the new reward system, traditionally the reward system on Minds has been all based on engagement that you receive. And so every day you get a token reward based on the engagement that you receive, and a handful of other actions like referrals. And then one token can get you 1,000 views if you want to boost with it. Now we have expanded the reward system into 3 buckets. One is still engagement, but then another is holding rewards for holding in your on-chain wallet, and another is for liquidity providers on Uniswap. And those are currently split. 50% of the rewards are going to liquidity providers, 10% going to holders, and 40% going to engagement rewards. And right now it's a fixed daily pool of 10,000 tokens a day. So you should see, just for the engagement bucket, the rewards should be significantly increased than what they were before. I don't know if you've noticed that at all, Scott.
I have. I think it's because of the I forget what it's called, like the activity multiplier where you're on for a certain amount of days or whatever, and then it gets multiplied. Do you want to kind of explain that?
Yeah, that's a huge breakthrough that we made. So basically, for each of the buckets, so let's take the engagement bucket, which based on all the comments, upvotes, shares that you receive, you get a score every day, and then that score is divided by the full network score based on all the engagement that people are receiving, and that sort of dictates what your percentage of that daily pool is. On top of that, depending on if you are a casual, core, or hardcore user, you get a multiplier of 1, 2, or 3 on your engagement score. And in terms of the definitions of what those are, I think I might get this slightly wrong, but ballpark is it's like casual is like 1 out of 7 days. The definitions are in there. I should know this, but hardcore is like 90% of the day. 6 out of 7 days. Core is like 4 out of 7 days, something like that. I might be a day off in each of those, but so that really rewards the people who are contributing the most and to the activity on the app.
Yeah, and that's for the past week, I guess it's looking at, right?
The past week, correct.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
for the holding and liquidity buckets, there is also a multiplier based on how long you have been holding out of a year. So, that is just starting to accumulate. So you'll see like there's a little arrow. If you go to your wallet and then click on the tokens tab, you'll see like a little drawer arrow on the side of each reward bucket, and you can see the whole breakdown. So for like liquidity providers, we launched the reward system earlier this week. So there's only been like 4 out of 365 days, but basically the longer you stay in, the more of a multiplier you get. And yeah, it's just sort of incentivizing long-term sustainable contribution to the community, and people not just sort of popping in and popping out. And but those people can still get rewarded, just not as much as like dedicated community members.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense, that you guys are just kind of rewarding people for being more engaged and being more involved. So that's pretty cool. So how exactly does like holding on chain work for earning rewards? Is it just you connect your wallet and then just if you have some on chain, it's that simple? Or
That's it. It's basically it's just detecting your on-chain balance, and then depending on everybody who's connected their Web3 wallet, all of those balances added together. It's just your fraction of the whole sort of dictates your percentage of the holding rewards buckets. So to be honest, over time, the rewards will probably dilute, because early adopters are very incentivized to get in. Now, in terms of the 10,000 daily reward pool of tokens, that is a variable that we're going to be launching a signaling DAO to sort of discuss those numbers, to make sure that everybody is happy about them and agrees that it's the right number. We sort of calculated that based on what we had been noticing over the past couple of years with the engagement rewards. We have a whole new Wallet Connect interface where you can connect any wallet now, not just MetaMask. There's a protocol called Wallet Connect. So any Wallet Connect supported Web3 wallet, which like there are dozens of, you can use. You can also use Coinbase Wallet or MetaMask. So that prompt will come up, and then you have to sign. There's a sort of crypto signature that you have to sign to sort of associate and verify that you own that address. And there's this tool called Web3 Modal, which we introduced on web. And then most of this is reflected in the mobile app as well. So that was a huge effort. And let's see, iOS has issues with the Wallet Connect, and that's not really our fault. It's more just Wallet Connect needs to come out with the V2, and there's all these like deep linking issues on iOS. But so I would recommend people like web is really going to be the best experience for this. But what I should say about the liquidity rewards, what we're doing is taking the liquidity position on Uniswap in the Minds ETH pair, or I think USDC and USDT pairs are also supported. But really, we're focusing on the Minds ETH pair on Uniswap. So say you have 1% of the liquidity provided in the Minds ETH pair, which you can stake in directly through the Minds app. So you get token rewards for that.
Is there a way to know like before you stake if you're going to qualify to be a certain percentage, or would you just know that after you stake?
You can see that before when
that's good.
When you're pooling in the Uniswap modal that pops up, you can see like what the percentage will be.
Perfect.
So there's now a new boost spot that we've rolled out on the right sidebar on the main news feed, have you noticed this, Scott?
I haven't noticed it, but I saw that in the tokenomics, and that was going to be the next thing I was going to ask about was the sponsored ad spots.
Yeah. So next time you're on the main news feed, just look at the right sidebar and you'll see this one spot, which basically rotates proportionally in accordance with your share of the liquidity pool. And that's just perpetual, which is a really big deal because, typically boosting on mines, you can use on-chain or off-chain tokens. But on-chain tokens, it didn't really make that much sense to boost recently because of the high gas fees on-chain. Mm-hmm. So people typically like to boost with off-chain tokens. But this is a way that you can just do one on-chain transaction to get into the liquidity pool. And then you are just perpetually getting rotated in that boost spot in proportion to your share of the liquidity pool. Now, there are some pretty big liquidity providers in there. So we're considering bringing in some sort of like a quadratic function so that even small, like really small liquidity providers don't get like completely drowned out by the big liquidity providers. But yeah, I mean, the novel thing about this is that typically in like liquidity mining programs, it's just token rewards that you get. There's no real value beyond that, particularly when the tokens don't even have a utility, which ours does. But when you stake into a liquidity pool, you're not giving us your tokens. You're basically just staking them into the Uniswap smart contract. And then there is a such thing called impermanent loss, where depending on the trading activity that's happening, like if more people are buying Mines tokens, then you're like, all right, let me start sooner. In order to stake liquidity in Uniswap, you have to stake the equivalent amount of ETH and Mines. Right now, I forget what it is. It's like, one Mines token, one ETH is like 2,000 Mines tokens, or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's what you would have to stake into the contract if you wanted to put one ETH worth. You have to do the equivalent amount of both. And then as you're staked, there's impermanent loss. So depending on the trading activity, your balance fluctuates depending on if people are buying or selling. And it's called impermanent because that can always adjust over time. But that's the only thing. You're not giving, and you can pull out at any time. And then, so all that advertising that you were getting was just value add. You weren't handing over your crypto to us. So we're thinking of this as like liquidity as almost like an indirect payment to the ecosystem in general. Because, there's a lot of value for that. I mean, you've noticed, Scott, like you've been, one of the, truly early adopters in the Minds token. And, there was sort of a fractured ecosystem with like our smart contract and, DEXs, and now everything's unified. And I think the interests are much more aligned.
Yeah. I think now more than ever, it's easy to get Minds tokens and get started and get involved. So in terms of like holding and rewards and liquidity and everything, for people who are debating, do I want to keep my Minds tokens on Minds for boosting, or do I want to transfer them on-chain, or do I want to buy Minds tokens? What do you think is the easiest or the best way for people to get started for liquidity or for holding on-chain?
Well, I mean, the fastest, unless you're like a influencer, to come in and earn a bunch off-chain, the fastest is just, there's a new item in the navigation, it just says buy crypto. And you can do that either through Transact or directly through Uniswap. So, the fastest way is probably just going to be to buy some on-chain tokens and then connect your wallet so that you can immediately start earning in the holding rewards section. It really sort of depends on the person. I recommend
Mm-hmm.
all of the above. I think that you probably want to have some off-chain tokens so that you can be boosting and tipping without any fees. But then you want to have some on-chain, just ultimately because it's better to hold on-chain. You have custody of your tokens, and we want to be educating people how to use Web3. I mean that's our ultimate goal.
Mm-hmm.
And we also launched a partnership with Scale. We're ultimately trying to get rid of the off-chain system and bring in like a layer 2 solution without gas for the off-chain world.
Okay.
But that's probably not going to be until, hopefully later this year.
So where does Minds now, well, where do you feel that it fits in with other projects in the space, other social and crypto social platforms?
I mean, I think that we're the only one that I know that is like fully integrated with liquidity positions on Uniswap, which sort of connects us a little bit more intimately with the DeFi world.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think that it's pretty novel. So I think that we're sort of at the forefront of Uniswap integration with a social network. But I think that there's some other ones that are really interesting that are doing very creative things with NFTs, which we're looking closely at now.
Okay.
I would love to bring in a way for people to mint NFTs and display their NFTs and bringing in like ENS names and all that kind of stuff. But it's one step at a time.
Yeah, for sure. So the question that I had before was, or I guess the wonderment is, where did you come up with the tokenomics model? Like, I know there's other platforms like Hive where they require you to actually power up and stake and like lock in your tokens, whereas you guys went with a more open model, which I appreciate, because there's a few other platforms that I know do this where it's you just have your tokens on there and you're able to earn, but they're not like locked up and you're not, kind of locked in for a certain amount of time. And I definitely appreciate that, especially for, liquidity and being able to earn your rewards. And then if you wanted to sell or do whatever, it's just much easier this way. Like, did you have any specific inspirations, or like where did you you draw that from?
Yeah, so we partnered with this Web3 shop called Dorg,
Okay.
DORG.tech. Really badass group of developers and sort of crypto economics people, and in correlation with our awesome dev team, we just for months really went through all the options. We looked at different on-chain staking liquidity options like Ampleforth and some of these types of things. But you know, we ultimately landed on just like a back-end integration with Uniswap, and maintaining our off-chain reward system just because it's been working really effectively, and we didn't really want to change what's working, because if we made all the rewards happening on chain, then that's just going to alienate most of the community.
Hmm.
And even though there are benefits to on-chain rewards, which and hopefully with Scale or some other options, we can get there someday with still a smooth UX. But like the other main tokenomics changes that we made, we slashed the supply from 1 billion to 250 million, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
That sort of makes everything a little bit a little tighter, and it's in everyone's benefit. So we did that. We Let's see, what else did we do? Yeah, we ripped out the sales smart contract, and yeah, we just sort of made the reward schedule a fixed emission rate, as opposed to before it was sort of based on the total activity. Like there was, but it's much better to have like a predictable emission rate
Mm.
from the rewards supply. So we did that as well. And yeah, I mean, it had a lot to do with our collaboration with Dorg. And they're a really cool company, which I recommend anyone looks into. They're basically a decentralized, they're a DAO company. And
That's
so
awesome.
there's this thing called blockchain based LLC in Vermont that is allowed, and like Wyoming just released something like this as well. But they have people all around the world. They do all their payments in stable coins, and like they have developers who submit hours, and like anyone can actually become a part of Dorg. You can like submit an application, whether you do marketing stuff or you do development stuff. Very cool project. Ori's really really smart guy, and we're going to keep working with them. They've been a big help. They've also worked on projects like Balancer and a number of others. So yeah, that's kind of where that came from.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. And what's next for Minds? Like you mentioned at the beginning that a lot of platforms are kind of having very similar features. Should we expect something like stories for Minds soon?
We sort of have a stories-esque feature on mobile. Do you have the mobile app?
Yeah.
Yeah, like we sort of have like a stories feed on top, but the on the top of the news feed for like swiping through more portrait style content. But yeah,
Hmm.
we're going to be putting a lot of work into that this year. And there's so much to do. It's really crazy. Like we decided to focus for the last 6 months on the reward system and the token,
Hmm.
just because it's really foundational for the incentives for the community. Because it just doesn't really make sense to have this token and just have it not being like fully synergized and beneficial to everybody. So, you know, I'm really glad I mean, it's not done, but it now it really has a life of its own, which is exciting. And, we're going to be focusing a lot more on video, trying to make the video features just more robust, longer videos, hopefully live streaming at some point, stories, all that kind of stuff. Focusing on like multiple accounts so you can like easily switch accounts. We're doing a whole new messenger revamp. This is probably the near term project I'm most excited about. Are you familiar with
Okay.
Matrix?
No, I'm not.
So Matrix is a decentralized encrypted messenger protocol. And like right now our messenger is so outdated and legacy. It's like it's probably it's just the oldest feature on the app that we have not touched in years, and just because we've been too focused on other things. But it's gonna be a fully functional sort of Slack kind of Discord competitor type console. So you'll be able to have huge group chats, sharing files, sharing posts into messages, totally encrypted, video chat capabilities. And, that'll be huge, because the fact that, I mean, Messenger and group chat is really so essential I mean, that's where we all spend most of our time every day, whether it's Skype or Telegram or Matrix or Signal or whatever you use. That's really where most social activity is happening. Like, yeah, sure, people are posting, but if you really zoom out and see like, okay, where is the world spending most of their time online, it's probably like browsing news feeds, but also like browsing chat messages.
Mm-hmm.
So that is our next project. That should probably be ready by in like a month. So that's the most near term thing that I'm really excited about. And there's more, but at this point, like I said, like we all know where the functionality has to move. There's a global consensus on what people expect out of social networks, and the crazy thing to me is that none of the big players are at all involved in crypto, really. Like, and none of them are open source, and none of them are like end-to-end encrypted. Why are none
Mm-hmm.
of them doing that? It's really crazy. Like literally not one.
Yeah,
The only
especially when you have like Jack Dorsey, promoting Bitcoin all the time, but then he doesn't actually, want to have any kind of decentralization or crypto on Twitter. It's just an odd viewpoint that seems conflicting.
Yeah, I mean, he launched the whole Blue Sky initiative at Twitter, which is sort of reviewing decentralization options. But it's like, why are they being so slow? Like, they have billions of dollars, and apparently Dorsey is like Mr. Bitcoin fan. But, I don't think that they would ever open source Twitter. I think that, maybe they would start to support some open source decentralized protocols on the back end, but I just don't see any signs that Twitter is going to move in the right direction. And then, I think that the apps that I see actually walking the walk are like Signal, fully open source and encrypted. Granted that they're not. I think that they've been teasing integrations with Stellar. Actually, I think there might be.
Interesting.
I think there might be some common investors over there. I feel like I saw an article about that. But Signal, their values are in the right place. Matrix, but that's not really that popular. Telegram is interesting because it's so loved by the crypto community, and they do have encryption options, but it's not fully open source. I think it's partially. So I think Telegram is sort of midway. I don't believe that they're fully open source. And then Library actually is fully open source, which I respect. I had a call with Jeremy. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually got coaxed into going into a Clubhouse chat with him and some other people. Have you been in on there?
I mean, there's so many new social apps to keep up with. I'm just trying to focus on blockchain for now before I really dive into like TikTok or Clubhouse or anything like that.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm not a fan really. I mean, it's a well-designed app, but it doesn't have any of its values really in the right place. And I think that we're gonna start to see mainstream social networks who are proprietary adopt more creator monetization options, sort of more in like the line of Substack type situation with fiat currency. Like apparently Zuckerberg and I forget who some other big executive was on a chat yesterday talking about the creator economy. And so, the good news, the creator economy is becoming a much bigger deal. And we've known that for a long time that that's where things were going. So it is cool to see that momentum keep building.
Yeah, and to Minds' credit, you guys have really been providing all these features and things that legacy platforms have that a lot of other blockchain integrated and crypto social platforms do not have. Like you guys really seem to be providing that solution for people who used Facebook and want a similar experience, or something like that, or an alternative to it. And just like you mentioned before, I mean, the only time I use Facebook is for Messenger for people who aren't otherwise on Signal or whatever.
Right.
And then Minds has all of these great features, groups, all the things that you would expect, and something that I also really credit you guys to is having analytics, which almost every other blockchain platform does not have, which makes it really hard for me to track. So yeah, I think you guys are doing amazing work. You're clearly upgrading Minds all the time and putting in tons of work. I'm excited to see how the chat evolves. Where do you see Minds going in the next few years, like in a longer term vision?
Well, before I get to that, I should also mention that there's a new section in the in the analytics, which is
Okay.
all focused on the token. So if you go to the analytics section, you'll see a new item in the drop down there about tokens, and it really dives into usage, liquidity, supply, circulating supply, all these kinds of things. So I don't know if you've seen that console, but I definitely
Yeah.
recommend checking that. You did
Yeah,
see
I
that.
did. Yeah, it's
Okay.
super transparent. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. So that was a big effort. But over the next few years, trying to decentralize everything more for sure. I mean, we want people. We kind of want to create a coexisting version of Minds which doesn't rely on us at all.
Mm.
And so we're looking closely at like IPFS and just more building more of an on-chain social graph
Hmm.
and enabling users to run nodes that can participate in the network and earn through that mechanism, and more customization options. So that's a huge effort. I mean, there's a reason that no one has really achieved that yet, because it's all very new technology. Like
Hmm.
in the world of decentralized social networks, you sort of have there's a couple different camps. You've got kind of the whole Mastodon activity pub crowd, and we actually already have started doing a activity pub integration so that we can talk to the Fediverse. And so I would expect that probably to get rolled out late this year. And we're kind of agnostic. We're looking at all of these different options, and it's not just going to be like one special framework that suddenly handles the entire social network. Just because in social networks there's so many different functions. You have different servers for all, for search, for video, for the main database, for sockets, for all, like there's just a lot of moving parts, and it's not like a blockchain is necessarily going to be the solution for everything. It can't be. But that being said, it can for a number of functions. So you've got that. You've got Matrix, which is federated as well. Anyone can run their own server, and then people can kind of create their own username domain system on Matrix. So you can actually log in to any Matrix hub with your username from any other hub. It's similar to how it works in ActivityPub, because they're also federated. But then you have more like fully decentralized peer-to-peer type social networks, more like Scuttlebutt, and it's really the only one that I've seen that it's very hard to use. It's not easy. Like you download this app, it's called the what is it? I forget what the protocol behind Scuttlebutt is. It might just be called Scuttlebutt. But like they're doing really cool things, and we've taken more of a piece by piece approach with the multi-cloud stuff, because Cassandra, our database, actually is a decentralized database, but it's not where anyone can run a node. Like, nodes can be all over the world, but we're actually talking to the Cassandra people about making like a read-only node that anyone can run. So there's sort of different types of nodes. There's nodes where people would actually run an instance of our database, and that would participate in the greater network. But then there's another type of node where people would run their actual entirely own instance of mines, which is more the Mastodon activity pub model. But the problem is that most people just don't want to do that. It's way too much maintenance. It's overkill. It creates all of these sort of really small networks, which some people want. And I think that's why it should be an option. But, ultimately, I think people just want to have control over their content and earn. And, I would imagine, Scott, like from your perspective, like, you've run, like, you were a witness on Steam, right?
Yeah, for for about 6 months, yeah.
But did you stop doing that during the whole Hive fiasco?
Yeah, no, it was before that I stopped. It was just it was just a lot of work, and I wasn't like earning much, so I was probably losing money at the end of the day to run my node. So it was just, it was a lot of work, and I was just trying to get more into content creation and away from that focus.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's a whole other complexity that comes into it, like making sure that the cost benefit is actually there for people. So, but that's the cool thing about liquidity mining, which is that you stake your crypto into this contract and you can earn via that way, and it's really just like a one-time thing, and you can always add or reduce your position. But that is sort of a way that we're enabling this sort of decentralized participation in the token ecosystem. So yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Uniswap. It's really cool software. I think they've done an amazing job. Are you a regular Uniswap user?
Yeah. I definitely trade a lot on there, but less lately with gas fees being as high as they've been.
Well, it seems like between the roll-ups coming out, I, they're bad, but even with how bad they are, it's still better than like anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still making trades and doing stuff. I cringe a little bit when I pay the transaction fees, but it's still worth it. And obviously, I expect it to get a lot better over the next little while. But yeah, so that is pretty much everything I had on my end. Is there anything else that you wanted to call out to or touch on?
Not so much. What are your thoughts on 1559?
Yeah, I'm excited. People think that there's going to be like a protest or something. I don't think anything's really going to happen. But that's just my take, because why would they bother ruining their own like gains? Maybe they'll just switch back to ETC. I'm not really sure. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I don't think that it's going to be. I mean, there might be a split, but I forget who it was that made a funny tweet. I think it was Crypto Cobain, and he said that he hopes that it'll happen so that he gets a whole new balance and can just dump it.
Jeez. Yeah, I thought about that too. I was like, well, maybe I'll get, a new balance, so like that won't be too bad, but
yeah. No, but I think it's really cool. It's one of those unexpected characteristics that Ethereum has, that these new functionalities are able to come in, which completely evolve the soundness of it. And so, to have a deflationary system, it's there's just I think the Ethereum community is so smart, and the developer power behind it is insane. So, I'm like, with this whole upgrade that we've done, we've also we did this big integration of Ethers JS, which is it's a little bit technical for some people, but it's just the foundational library that we're using to interact with Ethereum, and that was a huge effort as well. So, but I'm also like, part of me wants to figure out like a Satoshi reward system as well. I haven't really seen anything out there that is like easily integrable, but I would love to just do like Satoshi airdrops somehow. Like, we could even like couple it with our off-chain reward system, and like every once in a while just bomb everybody with Satoshis.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I do understand some of the critical nature of everything other than Bitcoin, but at the same time, I don't understand it at all. Like, I feel like the maximalists they have a mission, and they're trying to stay focused, and I totally understand that. And in part of me like really respects it. And so that's why I don't want to lose track of Bitcoin. But at the same time, Ethereum was specifically built to, be more of a general purpose blockchain and have all of these applications running on top of it. It's much more relevant to, application like a social network than Bitcoin. And you see some projects who are, like retroactively trying to build, smart contract capability on top of Bitcoin, like stacks. And like, I have so much respect for that. But it's also like not what Bitcoin was originally built for. So like, what's your take on the whole rift with like the maximalists versus the more agnostic crypto people?
Yeah, I mean, I've always looked at cryptocurrency based on use case. And for me, Bitcoin has always just been a store of value. I've used Dash and Bitcoin Cash to buy goods and services. And then I use ETH as my kind of like, I look at it as like a Web 3.0, or, like the developmental blockchain is the way that I look at it. So I see a bunch of different use cases for all these cryptocurrencies. And I think it's foolish to just look at, one and say this covers everything. So yeah, I've always looked at it from the viewpoint of like different use cases, and then holding them based on the use cases that I need.
Do you think that ultimately a lot of the Bitcoin maximalists will change their mind? And do you think that they're just being stubborn now just to sort of make sure it pushes through to some sort of, I mean, I feel like we've already hit escape velocity. Like, Bitcoin has completely proven itself. And I don't think that there's a problem. I think it's just, I think the bull market is going to keep on going. But do you think that a lot of the maximalists will eventually start to, show a little bit more openness to Ethereum?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so, because I don't think that a lot of Bitcoin maximalists are actually, like transacting their Bitcoin to buy like a coffee, or, so I think there's a lot of like, eventually there's only so far that you can get with Bitcoin before you're like, I'm a maximalist, so I'm going to spend $70 on a coffee just because I'm a maximalist, right? Like, so realistically, like, there's only so far you can go that's financially feasible. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of people who are going to say, well, no, I'm a maximalist, so I will spend $70 on a coffee. But I think for like normal people, that wouldn't really be a question. It's just more for people who probably have like huge bags of Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. So I think for normal people, or just like the average user, I don't even think that's a question. I think absolutely people will be adopting and using all these different cryptocurrencies, and they won't be, thinking that Bitcoin is the only thing that's, available to them. So
You
yeah,
found
that's my take.
apps that are like a nice, easy app to play with Lightning?
I haven't really like explored Lightning as much as I probably should have. So I haven't found anything yet.
Yeah, let's keep in touch about that. I would like I want to find I want to play with it. But I just feel like it's sort of this argument that maximalists will bring up, but then it's like, well, is there a single app where I can just like send you Lightning?
Yeah.
Send you tokens with Lightning? Like I haven't heard of it. But I would like to. And again, I just like we have a Bitcoin integration in the settings of your token, so you can add your Bitcoin address and people can tip you on mines. But that's about as far as we've been able to go. Like way back in the day, we had a Bitcoin wallet, but we just weren't, we weren't trying to be a Bitcoin wallet, and other people were just doing a better job at that. So we took that out and just we have like a blockchain.com integration so that you can just add in your public address and people can tip you that way. But yeah, I guess my last thing would be, I don't know, is there something specifically that you would like to see that you feel like is missing?
Not really. I mean, one of the big things for me was like how much you can earn with mines, and I think you guys absolutely improved and solved that with the last iteration with the new tokenomics. I think people who might have lost a little bit of their like enthusiasm for mines are going to see the new tokenomics and come back to mines, because I know for sure that, I mean, you guys obviously taking a huge portion of the supply and burning it increases the value immensely, and then people are going to be earning more on the platform now. So naturally, I think that solves a lot of people's like concerns, or when you compare it to other platforms, etc. I'm going to make sure to call out to mines when I do my next monthly report, so that people can see the difference in the earnings. Although it's obviously not a full month worth, but I think people will see a drastic difference, and I'll definitely be calling out to that in my next report as well, and continuing to track that.
Nice. I would recommend, just so that you can get a full scope enough picture to have just a little bit at least in each bucket, just so
Yeah.
that you can kind of understand how there's not like a massive number of liquidity providers right now, like probably a few dozen, but growing really rapidly. So, it's definitely a good time to get in there. And yeah, it would be great to, continually have your feedback and make sure that, you feel like the numbers are on point. And based on the feedback that I've been seeing on the site, people are really excited. They're seeing more engagement, earnings, and yeah, like the holding rewards and liquidity rewards without lockup, I think, is quite rare. Typically there are huge lockup periods.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I appreciate the conversation, and let's stay in touch about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll keep you up to date on my process with that and my experience, and give you guys some feedback for sure. And everyone else, obviously, you can follow along with my updates as I put them out, and you can follow Bill. What are your socials again?
I just got one, minds.com/Ottman, Ottman, and also check out minds.com/token, minds.com/rewards, breaks down the rewards a little bit more. And yeah, thanks for checking it out.
Yeah, awesome. All right, everyone, make sure to go follow him on Minds, and get on Minds if you're not already. And if you used to and left, I highly recommend going back and checking it out, because yeah, this new tokenomics upgrade is amazing, and you guys are doing amazing work. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Cheers. See ya.